Good afternoon, everyone. This is Edward Doe. I am happy you guys can join us again on the Sunday afternoon from where you are, whether it's Sunday afternoon, whether it's Sunday morning, or whether it's Sunday evening. Today's show will be very vibrant. We have about 5 topics to discuss, as my host, Mr. Gaiman, stated. The first thing we want to discuss is the current issue, the breaking news about Costa and District 15, a Bushra Island radio show that is owned by Senator Yunamule, or something. I can't pronounce her name very well. And the press release by the government have banned or issue a press release that Mr. Costa cannot, broadcast, or cannot simulcast his show from the United States to the audience in Liberia. Well, I think the government is wrong here. First and foremost, the government accused Mr. Costa of committing a crime. Mr. Costa is not guilty of anything. He's not been tried in the court of law. So how can the government trench on his rights not to broadcast from another country or simulcast a show from another country? He's not guilty until proven guilty. So whatever charges that is out there, the government say they have on Mr. Costa, they need to bring Mr. Costa and try Mr. Costa. Let the court say that Mr. Costa is guilty, then he cannot. If the penalty is that he cannot broadcast at all in Liberia, then that should be the penalty. But as it is right now, Mr. Costa has a right of freedom of speech. He should be able to simulcast a show from anywhere he is. He's not guilty until proven guilty.
Mr. Doe, as usual, you are off point and wrong. And I'm going to tell you where you went wrong. Obviously, you have not read the press release. It is legal in nature, and it is very clear. And I'm going to read it to you. But before I read that, I'm going to read to you what Mr. Costa posted and have been promoting his promotion that he's been doing all month long, especially in the last week. And it says here, and I read, finally, all is set for our return to radio tomorrow morning. Thank God, D15 Radio 98.1 FM. And it goes on to say, the Costa Show returns to radio. And he's standing there with his promotional material. It's Monday through Friday. Tune in to D15 98.1 FM from 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. weekly. And then this is a gentleman who has committed a crime in the Republic of Liberia, for which he was summoned to appear before the jurisdiction, the law in Liberia, and he absconded. He took flight. He has not gone to court to vindicate himself. He has not gone to court to explain or plead his side of the story. Instead, he fled the country. And now I'm going to read to you the government of Liberia's point. And I hope that you have it so you can read it yourself. And it says, thus, press release, Monrovia, January 17, 2021. And it's on the screen for our audience. The government of Liberia's attention has drawn to a social media post notifying the public of a plan by Radio Bush Road, D17 Radio, to begin hosting Henry Costa, who fled the country in 2020 after a writ was issued for his arrest in a criminal matter. Mr. Costa is still wanted by the law. The government informed the station's management that Costa, as a fugitive from Liberian justice, cannot host a radio program meant to communicate to Liberian audience while he is in the United States. Any act contrary to said notice would be a violation of the terms of the permit issued by the Ministry of Information and the Licensing conditions promulgated under the Telecommunication Act of Liberia. Anyone indulging, broadcasting, has to be held accountable for what they communicate. Article 50 of the Liberian Constitution states that every person shall have the right to freedom of speech, being responsible for the abuse thereof. If one is injured by a fugitive broadcasting from the United States or abroad, there will be no available redress for the Liberian law. Listen to that.
Mr. Gilman, I have that.
No, I'm not done. I want you to listen to this. This is law.
Release.
You are not. You obviously you didn't read it because you did not apply the Liberian law.
Time. I want to speak on that quickly. Listen, Mr. Gilman, you said Costa fled the country. Costa went to Sierra Leone, and he was stopped by the Sierra Leone government through the Liberian government, saying that they should return him, they should expedite him, to back to Liberia. They went back and forth. The Sierra Leone government asked the Liberian government to produce evidence that this man is a fugitive, that he was running away because he committed a crime. Then we can return him, But the Liberian government could not produce that evidence that this man is a fugitive. So what did the Sierra Leone government do? They released Costa and asked Costa to continue his travel. So it is frivolous for you to come on this show and say this man fled the country, he's a fugitive. It's all political because they want to silence Costa from broadcasting from abroad. This man did not commit any crime. If the government states wanted to have Costa in court, and Costa was in Liberia for a length of time, Costa also he led a demonstration. After they didn't arrest him, they didn't take him to court. He was allowed to lead a demonstration. After the demonstration, that's when they want to arrest this man while he was on his way to the U.S. for his education, to come to school. The government of Liberia could not produce to the government of Sierra Leone why is it this man is a fugitive. They could not do that. So when you sit here and say that the man is a fugitive, stop spoiling this man's name. He's not a fugitive. Costa did not commit any crime. The government of Liberia cannot produce any evidence of which crime Costa committed. They want to silence Costa. That is why they are doing all of this. It's all political.
Mr. Doe, I know you are a follower and an ardent supporter of Costa, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's your money, it's your time, it's your finances, it's your wealth. If you want to share it with Costa, that's fine. You are listening to the law. The Liberian government is saying that this man, that a writ was issued to him. Now you are trying to come, you are asking that Sierra Leone, we are a sovereign state. Sierra Leone is a sovereign state. Sierra Leone cannot compel Liberia or ask Liberia to try Costa in Sierra Leone. That is not. Excuse me. Costa, we did not ask Interpol to arrest him. The government of Liberia did not ask that he be arrested. Okay, we are saying that there was a rate. A rate means that you are wanted. It doesn't mean you are guilty or anything. If a rate or a ticket were issued to you in the state of Virginia where you are, and if you don't go to court as specified on that ticket to see whether you are guilty or not, if you are given even a speeding ticket, they give you a time and place to go and plead your case. It doesn't mean you are guilty. You go to court and tell the judge that, listen, this police officer said I was driving 100 miles an hour. I did not drive 100 miles an hour. I got evidence that I didn't drive 100 miles an hour. If the police says that I drove 100 miles an hour, let them show me the radar record. You have the right to do that. The press release is very clear. It said there was a rate issued for which this young man fled the country. And until he can go and answer to that, he is not allowed to broadcast out of the country. And secondly, if he injured anybody,
Mr. Gilman.
No, listen to this. Let's go by the law. Let's go by the law here. I don't want you to, I'm not going to let you off the hook here. Let's go by the law. The law is saying, listen to this. Listen to this. Let me finish this now. Let me finish this because the law is right here. It's written. You just read it. The country is saying if the Liberian Constitution guarantees that everybody has the freedom of speech, but yet we are all responsible for what we say and how we say it. If anyone is injured, the government has the right to address through the process of redress. The government does not have that when you are out of the country. Yes,
you are off point. You know, first and foremost, you just said that Liberia is a sovereign state, Sierra Leone is a sovereign state. Now, Mr. Costa left Liberia and went to Sierra Leone on his way to the U.S. The Sierra Leone government, through the Liberian government, you know, stopped Mr. Costa, arrested Mr. Costa, all right, through the Liberian government, arrested Mr. Costa. Mr. Costa arrested. Now, the Sierra Leone government said, okay, we have your citizen here, all right? What do you want us to do with him? He said, send him back, all right? So, well, we can send him back, but show us what he committed, what crime he committed, you know, so that we can send him back. That's the law. That's part of the international law. All right.
What the international law?
Let me land. This man did not commit any crime. This man is a freedom fighter. He's a advocate. You know.
He's a freedom fighter.
Wait. They could not produce that read that you talk about that he committed. He broke the law. Whatsoever. They could not produce that. Told the Sierra Leone government. The Sierra Leone government released Mr. Costa. That should tell you that what the government is doing or saying is frivolous. They do not have no criminal violation against this man. If they did, Costa was in Liberia for 2-3 months. They didn't arrest him. He hosted a demonstration. They didn't arrest him until he was ready to come back to school. That's when they wanted to arrest him. Come on, man. Let's be frank here. You are getting paid by this government. I understand that, but you are way off point. You are way off point. Let's move on to the next issue.
Don't be all over the place. We are not talking about how long he was in Liberia, how long was he in Sierra Leone. We are saying the government is saying there are two things. Okay, Mr. Doe, the reason you are off point.
What is the crime?
We are saying
what was the crime?
It's for you to understand.
Tell me.
Listen,
what?
The government of Liberia does not owe anything. The government of Liberia does not owe Sierra Leone any crime, any crime report. It says the government of Liberia said there is a rate.
Yeah, can you tell us?
It's a rate.
Yes, he committed a crime. So tell us what's in that rate. What crime did he commit?
Listen to this. It doesn't matter. There is an outstanding rate. If you were in Virginia, if you were in the state of Virginia and you drove and you have a license,
obviously,
listen to this. If you were in the state of Virginia and you drove,
you don't know the crime.
Listen to this.
All right,
Mr. Doe.
Let's move on to the next issue.
In the state of Virginia, if you were driving with a license and they offer you a rate, nobody has the right to say what is in the rate. You have a rate for your arrest. That's it. You go and vindicate yourself.
Are you telling me the government will issue a rate to the most popular man, a radio host, a man that is very much a critique of the government, and the government would not say specifically what crime this man committed? So damn, that's the same thing that did with Sierra Leone. They could not tell the Sierra Leone government what crime this man committed. That's why the Sierra Leone government released Mr. Costa to go to the USA.
But deal with the issue. Deal with the issue. No, we cannot move. Let's move on. Let's move on.
You are being paid by this government, and so therefore you will always find fault that there is no fault. You will always defend the indefensible, and that's exactly what you're doing today,
Mr. Doe. If you or I in the United States, if Mr. Costa injured anybody in the Republic of Liberia, their character, the hard-earned character, does the Liberian people, does the Liberian government has the power to address those issues on the ground? Yes or no?
What was the question again?
If you or I or Mr. Costa in the diaspora out of the country broadcast in Liberia and injure somebody's reputation or injure somebody's business or destroy somebody's establishment, does the Liberian government have the power for redress?
Redress on this person? Yes, as a citizen, they had the power to redress on Costa.
No, Mr. Doe, you're not listening. If you or I or Mr. Costa outside of Liberia injure somebody's character, destroy the establishment, does the Liberian government have the power for redress with Mr. Costa in Liberia, him being out of the country?
But let me understand the question. Are you saying that Mr. Costa injured somebody's character? Is that the crime committed?
Mr. Doe, you are not listening.
No, because that's an analogy you gave him there.
I'm quoting directly from the press release. The press release says
it's irrelevant. The
press release said Mr. Costa cannot. Mr. Costa cannot broadcast because if he injures anybody's character, the government cannot arrest him. The government has no direct or representative, no direct power over to bring him in. That is the law.
What you mean by the radio station can be responsible for that? The radio station can be responsible for what the simulcast on their show. So the radio station can monitor what Mr. Costa is going to say or not. So that's irrelevant.
Mr. Doe, Mr. Doe, you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. The question is, does Liberia have the power over Costa to bring him in for redress if he injures somebody's character?
Does the Liberian government have the character over the show that we're having right now? If it was simulcast in Liberia and we injure somebody's character, no.
But that's why we are not simulcast. We are not simulcast. We are internet based.
So if you simulcast it, the radio station, the host radio station that is doing the simulcast will be the responsible party.
Sir,
so the
radio station said
the government should be responsible for that radio station. Say, listen, this man can simulcast, but if he injure anybody's character, you guys will be responsible. Period.
Sir, the government is proactive.
No, listen to me. Listen to me. The government cannot say, if this man simulcast on your show, on your platform, we're definitely going to reject your license. The government should not be in that position. The government should put the responsibility on the radio station, saying, listen, whatever this man do on your platform, if he injure anybody's character, we're going to take redress on you on your radio station. The radio station is responsible for that.
Well, Mr. Doe, you see, when things happen in Liberia, we say the government is not proactive. We criticize the government. The government is very proactive, and they quoted to you the statute, and they quoted to you, okay, the contract between D15, 98.1 FM, and the Telecommunication Act. It says that they were going to broadcast within the borders of the Republic of Liberia. Now we are saying that you are trying to simulcast a character that is not in the country. What will we do if this person injures somebody's character? In order to do that, to avoid that, they have been very proactive by saying this is not allowed. And if you continue to do this, anyhow, your license is going to be pulled. The government has that right to do so. So the government is within its rights to do exactly what it's supposed to do. The government's first responsibility is to protect the state and its citizens. And the character of the citizen is primary. The government have made our decision that we are not going to allow someone to injure the character of our citizen before we react. It's not going to happen. I think the government is on point. Let's move to the next point.
No, the government is on point. Let me make my last point. The government is off point because the fact of the matter is the responsible party is D15. The Bushra radio station should be the responsible party. They should not yank their license just because they want to simulcast Costa show on Liberian soil. The fact of the matter here is that Costa should be able to speak to the Liberian people at anywhere he's from any location he's at. The radio station should be responsible make sure that whatever the simulcast is free of injury anybody character from Costa. That's it. That should be the responsibility. But the government should not preempt the radio station and say, listen, if you bring this man on your radio station, you bring this man on your platform, but you simulcast his podcast, on your platform, we're going to, reject your license or take away your license. That is wrong. That is not being proactive. That is not being proactive at all. And furthermore, too, will the government, if the government does that, they're going to be making some people unemployed. So the government is off point. Let's go to the next issue.
Mr. Doe, we'll revisit that, but the government has to write. Mr. Costa has a podcast. He's podcasting all over Liberia. Nobody stops him, but he's not going to do it within the confines of the borders of the state. Now let's move to the next topic. This is a topic that is of interest to you. Anything that has to do with protests, like your friend and brother Costa, the master of protest, you support, whether it is real or imagined, you will support it. It is, like I say again, it is your money, it is your wealth, it is your finance. You have the right to use it any way you want. You can send it to buy water, you can send it to buy tire, you can send it to buy gas so they can burn tires on the street. It's your money. But if it breaks the laws of Liberia, we are going to talk about it. Now let's go to the NEC. There were few people. The NEC, as you know, got thousands of employees. We saw about 17 to 25 people in the street saying that they were not paid. And to my chagrin and to your glee, you were smiling that yes, another protest. Liberian government is not paying its employee NEC. So you go from there. Tell me what part of that protest that you saw that impressed you so much that you were smiling from ear to ear.
Well, the NEC employees, whether they are direct employees or indirect employees, the contractors whatsoever, they have the right to protest to get paid if the government is not going to have not paid them yet. So the fact of the matter is that the government have not paid these people. The people have the right to get on the street and say, listen, we want our money, we want to get paid. That's their right. They did their part of the bargain. They did the work. The government needs to reward them what they deserve. So the fact of the matter, the government has not paid these people is very bad. And we see this repeat of this government. People not getting paid timely. People not getting paid at all. This is a repeat of the government. The government is in this cycle, So there is something going on wrong here that the government cannot meet its obligations, its debt obligation, its payroll obligation, those kind of things. This government is performing poorly. And for you to sit here and want to support this government because you're being paid, they're giving you $10,000 a month or whatsoever, you're being paid handsomely. So therefore, you're going to come on point and be off point just to support this government.
Mr. Doe, obviously you and Costa who have gone to the same school of propaganda, which is totally based on misleading and fake information. You manufacture information. For a man like you who works with numbers and like to do auditing and everything has to do with papers, I would have thought by now you have pulled up some contract or some bank transaction where money was transmitted to me or to anybody that I'm associated with. Instead, you pull in a quick Costa, which you pull numbers from the air and say whatever it is you want to say. This is why the government is very, very particular with people like you and Costa. You have no problem injuring people's character, people's businesses, their hard-earned reputation. You got no problem. You have no problem. This is your operandi. This is your expertise. This is something that you find glee in. You find you find joy in pulling numbers, in calling names and saying things that you have no proof. And you are a number person. I believe and I notice this because this is what you do for a living. If you didn't have number, it wouldn't add up. But why you cannot do on your job professionally? Why would you want to do it to on your job? Everything is based on facts. Everything is based on audit. Everything is based on verification. Why would you do this on Liberia, my brother?
Mr. Gaiman, you are in the business of labeling people like me. You say I support and Costa. I use my wealth, my money, to support Costa. No, I am an advocate, period. I write a lot. All my writings is about advocating. I criticize the government. You, on the other hand, support this government. You come here and defend the indefensible. And that's exactly what you're doing. So the fact of the matter, in fact, some of our audience are accusing you of getting paid. Read some of the comments from the audience. They are saying that you are on government payroll. When we go read the comments, you'll see some comments there that says that they say you are on government payroll. So I'm not the one saying it, and Mr. Gaiman. Others are saying it. Are you on government payroll? Let us know. Come straight.
Mr. Doe, again, this is one of the reasons why, and I'm glad that the government and people who, in fact, the United States government now, as we see Twitter, from Facebook, you see all the social media outlets, news outlets, they are now screaming and they are now screening and searching and making sure that things that contents are, they are verified. And it means something. Words have meanings and they have consequences. For people like you who are into auditing, who believe in facts, in number, hard numbers, you are telling me here on this particular august body that your comments and your sentiment is based on what you saw in the comment section. My friend, this is unbelievable and unprecedented for a show on Focus on Liberia that is actually fact-based. We call it the National Public Radio of Liberia because they are very, very fact-based. For you to say here and say you read it somewhere or you saw it in the comment section, my friend, I am very, very disturbed. Are you okay?
Well, Mr. Gilman, I'm very much okay. The fact of the matter is that our audience, we do the show for our audience. Okay, if our audience listen to your comments and your defense of this government, and they make those kind of conclusions, then why is it I can't just say it in your face at times? I'm not being accusatory, but I'm only repeating what some of the audience are saying. And I ask you a question: are you getting paid by this government? You have not answered the question. It's a yes or no question.
Mr. Doe, Mr. Doe, no, let me answer the question categorically. Categorically,
I'm supporting Costa financially, things of that nature, which is not true at all.
I didn't say you were supporting.
I'm not even going to respond to that.
I didn't say that.
Respond to that by dignifying it, whatsoever. But let's talk about the issue of the protest. We're talking about something else that is quite contrary to what we're supposed to be discussing. I want to hear your point, your defense on the protest. Should not the NEC employees protest? Should not they protest for their pay? Whether they are direct employees or indirect employees, the contractors, should they not be protesting if the government have not paid them yet?
Listen to this, Mr. Doe. One of the things that you and I need to do, when people walk around and say they are protesting, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that those who say they are protesting are who they say they are, or they are some paid agents. I think when they were doing the beach cleanup protest, there were a lot of the anti-government folks going around and cheering. And I think the other radio station did an excellent job by query, going into the crowd and say, who do you work for? Where is your ID? And who is your supervisor? And most of the folks that were in that audience could not tell us where they work, who they work for, who was the direct supervisor, and when was the last time, when were they hired, who hired them, what was the process. Most of them believed they just joined the crowd because someone told them to. So those are us who are in the know. We should be very, very cognizant of this and be very careful. When people say, I have not been paid or the government is not paying me, we have to. Those are us who are into the dissemination of information. It is incumbent upon us to verify those information. I know you have not reached out to the NEC to find out whether these people that were running out over the place were employees of the NEC, whether what they are saying has some validity. No, but because you take pride in the Costa form of protest, I noticed from the beginning, you said that he went to Liberia and they protest for months and nothing happened, and all of a sudden he was wanted. Same thing, you supported the protest, and there's a pattern here. You supported June 7th. You supported December 6th. You supported all the protests. And here we are again, NEC. You are supporting the protest, whether true or not. You have no verification. So yes, if people are being worked and they are worked and they are not being paid, my first question was, what is the channel of communication in your contract? That if you didn't get paid, what are you supposed to do? Do you just go in the street? You, Mr. Doe, and myself here, we work in the United States. If we don't get our pay, do we go to the press and protest, or we go to HR first and then do the proper procedure? Those are things. This is democracy. You are saying they should lay these things aside that we do here in the United States and then go to Liberia and do the total opposite.
Mr. Gaiman, you are off point. The example you gave, like you and I, if we don't get paid, we wait for a particular organization, and the organization does not pay their employees. Oh, sure, definitely, that would be reported to the press. That would be definitely, the press would take on that. That's news for the press to shame the organization so that they can pay the employees. So what you're talking about, that's part of protest. If you have the press give the information to the press to shame the organization, that's part of protest. Yes, protest doesn't have to be all physical all the time, but there are times too the protests have to be physical. So if these people went on the street with their flags wanting that they should get paid because the government did not pay them, it's their rights. They're supposed to be rewarded for the work they did. So for you to sit here and say that these protesters were not government employees, they were people that just probably was paid by somebody else, come on the street and just protest that you're not employees, this is frivolous. I don't know why you get this kind of defense to defend the government. You see, this is why I say you defend the indefensible. When are you going to defend the common people? This is a common issue. When you sit there and your relative is part of the net employee, never got paid, then they shouldn't go and protest for their money. I find it interesting.
Mr. Doe,
Mr. Gaiman.
Mr. Doe, you sidestep the question that I asked you. In the company where you work, you have policy and procedure. You have means of communication. We have channels of communication. If you didn't get paid, you know the steps. You don't just jump in the street. But anyhow,
grievances. Yes, then you take it to the press. You got to go and protest. Maybe they exhausted their grievances, so they took it to the press.
Well, you said maybe. You see, that's the operative word, maybe. But let's move on to the next one. Let's go to the economic situation here in Liberia. Let's look at the economy. You have interest in numbers. Okay, I have interest in the stability of the country, in the security aspect of the country. You want to believe, and I am saying no, you are saying that the economy has a lot to do with the security of the state. I agree with you on that end. But to what extent, Mr. Doe?
Well, to the extent that people are not getting paid timely, the government is not paying their employees timely, there is currency scarcity, there is hoarding of money, the economic is not improving at all. Commodities prices are high, prices are high, food prices high, so all those things are economic instability. Is a threat to the national security of Liberia. And I'm surprised that this government is not taking a strong look at that to make sure they fix those kind of things. They fix, first and foremost, a simple thing to fix. Let the government employees, civil servants, get paid regularly and timely. That's a quick fix. That's an easy fix. All right. Then you jump on the currency scarcity. Oh, no, then maybe you jump on pricing. Make sure you reduce the commodity prices. All right. Now, look at your input, your tariffs on goods that's coming to Liberia. It's very high. The tariffs on goods coming to Liberia is very high. What made the tariff so high? If the tariff is very high, definitely commodity prices will be very high. Because if I bring my goods in to sell and you charge me a high tariff, definitely I will pass that cost on to the consumer. So they need to look at the tariffs, bring that price down so that the price of goods and services will be lower and people can afford that. So these are things they need to look at. And then money scarcity, they need to fix that money issue. The currency scarcity, they need to fix that. Either the dual currency that is going on, they need to handle that and need to really look at that. So the fact of the matter here is that you can't sit there and tell me saying that you are concerned or you are interested in national security, but you're not interested in the economic instability. Both of them go hand in hand. They are parallel. Okay,
Mr. Doe, you are a normal person. You on the other side of the fence. You do not make payroll. You do not generate revenue. Your number is to count what you have and what we don't have. Now, when you talk about commodity prices, I know we all did it in basic economics, okay? A country like Liberia that produces nothing, everything that we use, I would say maybe 80, 90% of what we use in Liberia is foreign made. You are looking at the world economy in a tailspin, okay? So let's say goods that were coming from China or the United States. You and I know a few months ago, toiletry in this country, because of the COVID, because of the economic situation here, toiletry, if you went into Walmart, they would tell you that you are limited to 2 toilet tissues, or you are limited to everything 2 at a time. That is because of the scarcity of the supply. The demand outweighs the supply. Hence, we are now going into what we call rationing. If that happens in the United States, it has a trickle-down effect on countries like Liberia that are basically countries that survive on handout. So when the United States or the Western world sneezes, Liberia catches a cold. You heard that a million times. So when you are talking about the commodity prices are high, obviously, yes, they're supposed to be high. We are importing most of the things that we use. And when those things cost more to produce abroad and ship, they will pass it down to the consumers, like you said. And the consumer in this particular case will be importers. So it is not just the local government that is hiking the price. In fact, the government has very little control over what people pay to import their stuff into Liberia. Okay? So you are talking about maybe the tariff. We should reduce tariff. I know they have done that to some degree. In fact, the other day, they gave tax waiver to people who were bringing in transportation buses during Christmas time. Those are free for people to move from point A to point B. That is within the purview of the government. But the prices on tires, on gasoline, on rice, on those commodities that are brought into the country, the government has very little control over the prices on those commodities. So, my friend, when you are talking about the government should address those things first and foremost, it is not as easy as it is. You into budget. You know, when we talk about a budget is a forecast. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, you mentioned 2 things that you are off point. You mentioned about the scarcity of goods because of the COVID in the U.S.
Of course. Not in the U.S., the whole world.
Yeah, when goods were scarce, those prices of the goods did not go up. All right, it's just that we're rationing. Stores are rationing. How many quantity you can buy, but the prices did not go up. The prices remained the same. They were constant. So you cannot make that relationship.
Mr. Doe.
Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. You cannot make that relationship with what is happening in Liberia. That's a wrong relationship. Then you mentioned about tax waivers. That when buses came during the Christmas time in Liberia, they gave tax waiver. Tax waiver is different from tariffs. Tax waiver for business people. If you bring the buses to run as a business, yeah, they'll give you a waiver on taxes. But if the tariffs that is high, it doesn't mean that because they gave you a tax waiver, meaning that transportation costs going to come down. No. It does not have an impact on transportation costs.
Mr. Doe.
Wait, let me finish. The tax waiver is for you, for the businessman, to bring in more buses, to increase the transportation, in Liberia. That's all, to save them taxes. That's it. It does not have an impact on the products, on the prices of products. So
Mr. Doe.
let me finish. For you to compare tax waivers with tariffs, you're off point. You don't, I don't want to go that direction that you do not know anything about economy or whatever. But
Mr. Doe, Mr. Doe, let me bring you back on point. Let me bring you back on point. When you are talking about this, you think government get its money to pay its employees? The government makes its money from taxes collected, okay, our own revenue generation in Liberia, plus grants and other subsidy from the international community. The little that we are collecting from tariff, from taxes, input, and those duties, if we are waiving for the whole month taxes collected on imported transportation in Liberia, it has a lot to do with our bottom line. And you are talking about how we are not paying people on time. We are getting short on our revenue to pay our employees. How does that happen? When you do not collect enough taxes, we are not generating enough taxes on the ground. And then the little that we are collecting, we are giving waiver. But that's part of that. Let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to Mr. Boyman, J.V. Boyman. Mr. Boyman, J.V. Boyman, as you know, was the young man, from what I understand, those who knew him say he was very professional, very brilliant, very, very, very modern. And he got a job at LBS as director there. And for some reason, he believed his own insecurity, his own inferiority complex got in his way. And he felt like the power that be, or the upper hand, the more powerful man in the country, because he has a beautiful wife, or I don't know why he's still married to her. He had a beautiful wife. He said he accused the president of taking his wife. And he went on, not only did he accuse the president, but embarrass his family, embarrass his wife, put her in the media, on social media, her little car that she bought. He claimed the president might have bought the car for her and denigrated her in public, and she became the butt of jokes. He ran from his own shadows. He said he thought the president was after him. He ran from Liberia and went into Sierra Leone. Later on, he found out that he was running from his own shadow. Nobody was after him. Nobody wanted to kill him. And after all, his wife did absolutely nothing that he can prove. He just like you. People told him something he never verified and just blew it up. Mr. Doe, what do you do about Mr. Boyman and his apology to the president, his wife, and to the Liberian people for tarnishing the reputation of a beautiful woman who have earned her way up to where she is?
Well, I think that first and foremost, Mr. Boyman, J.V. Boyman, I think he was paid, to make this recent scripted announcement that he was wrong. What he said before did not happen. For Mr. Boyman to go to that extent, and publicize his family, that his wife, that the president was sleeping with his wife, and make it and give us details, information as to what was happening, tells me that he was speaking the truth. Now, for him to make this U-turn, this turnaround, I see that he was paid by someone in the government, most likely the president, because the president wants to make his name better, reverse the story. So Mr. Boyman comes back with this scripted apology, scripted reverse of what he said about his family and his president, because he was paid a few dollars. I believe that's what happened, to save the president, name and his reputation. This
Mr.
president is noted for chasing, like other people, women. He's not happy with his own wife, so he chased, cabinet ministers, women. If you have a beautiful wife, he wants that woman, and that's exactly what happened here. Unfortunately, this guy doesn't have that much integrity. People like me, to stand on his ground and say, "Listen, this is what happened. I shamed this president. Yes, I shamed my family also, but I'm going to stay on my grounds and not get paid and reverse." Now he made himself shame to me. It's very shameful for him, and he's ruining his integrity. But I believe there's some cash behind this scripted version of reversing what he said before.
Mr. Doe, you are off point, but let me bring you back on point here. And one thing that I have to agree with you here, I have to give you credit, is that you are very consistent in being inconsistent. You said earlier that you are a normal person and that you believe in facts and everything is, but yet you say you are using the supposition. Now you are saying, I think, or I believe. Well, when you are believing something, okay, it is not objective. It is as subjective as anything. You tell me that you went to sleep last night and you spoke with God. Listen, there's nothing I can do about that because that's your belief. That is something that is subjective. For somebody who does numbers like you to come out and say that you think the president may have taken his wife and somebody came and paid him for him to come and do a total reversal, as opposed to give him what we are saying, you were hearing it from the horse's mouth. The young man said what he said. I would believe him, okay? And you could look in his face based on what he said, that most of the information that I was being fed, now that I'm looking back in retrospect, I am finding out that those who wanted my job, those who wanted my position, those who wanted to be in the position that I was in, proximity to the presidency, those people fed me information that I used without investigating, and now here I am. If it's with or without job, I want my conscience to be clear. I want God to bless me. Even if George Weah, President Weah, or the Liberian people do not bring me back into their good graces, at least my conscience is going to be clear. I want to be clear. I want it to be well, like a Methodist, old Methodist song. It is well with my soul. The young man said, even if he's not brought back into the good graces of the Liberian government or the Liberian people, he wanted to be well with his soul. So he came to apologize to the president, to his family, to his friend, and to his wife, even if the woman does not take him back. But he wants to be very clear based on text messages that he was wrong. And you are telling me that a young man confession, it is because somebody paid him. You are off point, my friend.
You're off point. You're off point. You always use the fact that I'm a number person, but you miss the fact that you can infer it in numbers. Statistics is about inferring. Okay, so yes, so when you infer in numbers, it's not subjective. Using the numbers to make a prediction, to make an inference, So in this case, yes, I'm inferring that this man was paid. It took him this long to find his conscience, That to me is very interesting. And the fact that he gave too much details as to how his wife was cheating on him, Mr. Weah bought a car for his wife. The man knows his wife finances very well. So how did she get that car? Who paid for it? Who bought it for her? So the man gave us some details for him to come back, make this U-turn, and bring and comment and make this statement that was scripted. It was scripted. It was not something from his heart. It was scripted. The government or the people behind the cash wanted him to say what he said. That is why they wrote what they wanted him to say. So for you to sit over there and say that my inference is subjective, I'm very surprised at you. But again, I won't be surprised because you defend the indefensible. That's the nature. That's the
Mr. Doe, for someone to say the president slept with my wife, okay, the young man said his confession was about where did not sleep with his wife. He had no proof, like he said, from what people told him, and few text messages here and there, which he cut and pasted. Based on that, he drew the conclusion that if A is B, then B might be C. And in all instances, that was not right. He found out that his wife had a high-paying job. She was an independent woman. She had her own place before he met her. She had all of these things before he met this woman. So anybody with a brain would have actually concluded that with or without me, this woman was a self-made woman. What makes you think that if she got a car and an apartment before I met her, she cannot get a car and an apartment now? As a willing participant in a relationship, he should have known from the get-go that I met A, B, and C here. How did she get it? Maybe those were the things that attracted him to her. Okay? Now that he feels inferior to a woman who is powerful, independent, self-sufficient, self-sustainable, all of a sudden, this control, the typical Liberian man love to control his women or his wife, including his daughters, that everything they do, every step they take, they have to be a part of it. If they don't approve, they do domestic violence, they beat their wives. There were some today that kill their wives and do other those things because the woman doesn't listen to him, or he thinks doesn't listen to him. The woman may be listening, but she just have a mind of her own. So Mr. Boima V. Boima was wrong. He wronged the president. He wronged his wife. He wronged the Liberian people. He wronged the women's movement. He wronged his daughter. And I think he asked for forgiveness. With the contrition that I saw in him, I think we should forgive the young man and tell him, go and sin no more.
Well, I'll tell you the fact that this young man told the public that he had text messages that he intercepted between his wife and the president. That's critical evidence. So for this man to make a U-turn and come back and say, no, I did not get that kind of information, I deny it. I never got those text messages. I never intercepted those text messages. To me, he was paid. He was paid. He was paid. He was paid by some government.
Mr. Doe, he never said
right there.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is one of interest to you. Hopefully, we can get this under control. You wanted to throw some light on the Liberian budget, the 2021 budget.
Mr. Sia, can you put the budget up again, please?
Go ahead. You can explain why he does that. Go ahead.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Mr. Sia. Well, the budget is very interesting. This is the budget year for 2000, from 2006 to 2007 up to 2000. I can see. Can you move that? I can see the bottom line. Move the fiscal year 2021 budget. The label right there. I can see 2020 to 21. Okay, the budget for the Senate. Okay, the total for the Senate for this year, 2021, is 15,885,643.
That's correct.
For the House of Representatives, 28 million.
That's correct.
All right. The total budget for both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives, is about 45 million.
46.
45 million.
Right? Yeah, 45 on 44.6. Okay, run it up.
45 million. Okay, so now you want to tell me we're spending 45 million. This is US dollars, I believe so, on our lawmakers. on our lawmakers. That's a huge amount of money. Now, that 45 million includes salaries, include the perks, include gas in your car, the gas slip, and all that stuff. If you are a proper government or you have a proper agenda, who in this government look at that budget, the WIA administration, and say, you know what, this is humongous. You know, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to advocate that we reduce this budget for lawmakers. He has in the Senate Mr. Darius DeLong, who is an advocate of reducing the salaries and the perks for lawmakers. So why is it your government that you always say they have a proper agenda cannot move in that direction and collaborate with Mr. DeLong to reduce the salary for lawmakers and the perks? They got someone who can be their ally in the Senate. Mr. DeLong is there. He can be an ally to your proper agenda. Reduce that aspect of the budget. Salary, recurring costs, the salary, the price, those are recurring costs, is eating into our budget. Mr. Gayman, you cannot sit there and defend the indefensible. This is indefensible. Don't tell me you don't have some sense of piety to see this kind of money be spent by lawmakers. Your turn.
Mr. Doe, you have me laughing. I want you to pull out your calculator. Please pull out your calculator and do the math. 45 million is what percentage of $600 million? That would be your homework. Let's see what the percentage is. What percentage of the total budget goes to the House? Your second assignment would be something that you have very little knowledge about because you are not into the political science and into government. You are a numbers person. You're on finance. You're on the other side of the aisle. So let me tell you a little bit about governance and how government works. When we are talking about pay of the houses, the lower and the upper houses, there's something called codification law statute. The executive has no power over statutory power in the country. That is, the House and the Senate, they pass the salary into law. For that to happen, the law has to be repealed. Now you are talking about Darius Dillon, who I know is as fake as they can come. And if Darius Dillon meant well, he would have written a bill by now that would have been circulated in the Senate. All he needs in the Senate is 16 more votes to pass a law or a bill in the Senate to repeal the law that guarantees them this kind of money. Instead, he is talking for a floor show to go out there and bloviate and pretend that he is this all goody two shoes, but we know he's most likely like a Nicodemus that come out at night and connive with these guys, keep the purses that he gets, keep the per diem, keep everything. Typical example, when Dillon came in little over a year ago, he declared his assets. He said he was worth like maybe $350 or something of that nature. You saw what he put up in 12 months. He had gone from less than $1,000 to almost $96,000 in savings in 1 year. So you are talking about the president is not trying to repeal the law. President do not repeal law. The laws are repealed in the House. Darius Dillon. In fact, the CDC have only 4 senators in the Senate. We have 30 senators in the Senate. CDC has only 4. The opposition has 26. So what's stopping the Senate? Darius Dillon and his co-hosts. What's stopping them from repealing the law? Not just go on the air and talk. We are talking about law. What's stopping them from repealing the law, Mr. Doe?
First and foremost, you're off point. All right. I didn't say that the we administration should go and appeal the law. I said that they should form a collaboration with Dillon and pressure the senators, the senators from CDC and other senators, the president speak a lot about it. Talk about it, in the country that these senators, lawmakers need to reduce their budget, salary. Now you talk about percentages, okay? Now, even if you look at the U.S. budget, for Congress budget, okay, Liberia budget is over the Congress budget. It's not even 45 million for lawmakers in the U.S. For lawmakers in the U.S., it's on the total lawmakers in the U.S. is under 45 million. And you want to sit there and talk, about, we are doing better. You have a proper agenda. Your proper agenda should think about taking funds or money from somewhere else that has been exorbitant and moving it to a direction for the poor people. That is what I'm talking about here. All right. I'm not talking about percentages whatsoever. Yes, that budget, that salary carry a huge percent, close to 50% or a little over 50% of our budget is in a salary. In fact, close to 50% of our salary budget should not be on salary. That's too much.
Mr. Doe.
All right? That is why we don't have infrastructure. That's why we're not building roads. That's why we're not building schools, because most of our budget expenditures is in salary and perks. We need to do better. You cannot be a proper government and you have most of your budget in salary expenses. That is not proper agenda.
Mr. Doe, you are off point. Your numbers are wrong. 50% of our budget is now on salary, so you are wrong. But let's leave that as it is, because you have been wrong. Like I said, you are very consistent in being wrong. So I forgive you for that. But anyhow, this is what we are talking about. When we're talking about, we got about 5 more minutes here to close. Time is being fast spent. But when we are talking about legislative obligation, you, as a member of the CPP, you need to lobby. You just had an election, and I saw you the last time celebrating that you won all over the country. You control everything. You won. We won. We lost. We lost everything. You won everything. So what's stopping you now from legislating? What's stopping you? You won the House, the lower house, and the upper house. The only thing that you don't have is the executive, but you have the lower and the upper houses. Why is it that you cannot legislate at this point and you're waiting for the government to take the lead? But while our time is fast spent, I would like you to include your comment into your closing. So, Mr. Doe, I'll give you 5 minutes of your time for your close. No, before you close, let's go to the comment. Mr. C, can you please put the comments up front?
Melvin Coda says, we Liberians need to get rid of one of the house. Do you believe that, Mr. Engagement, that we need to get rid of one of the house?
Well,
which house we should get rid of?
Well, I don't think that getting rid of the house, never thought about it. I don't think whether it will work in our democracy, because there has to be a lower house that are responsible for generating bills. And then there has to be a concurrent house that counterbalances everything else. So getting rid of one means that you may come up to the dictatorship that we're being shied away from. So I don't think that would be the right way to go.
Well, for me, I think we should leave the way our democracy is. But what we need to do is definitely refine it. Make sure we elect people that goes there, the lawmakers, the right lawmakers, they understand the law, they're advocates for the people, for their constituents. And then also too, we should not give them that huge amount of salary that we're giving them. We need to reduce that salary. This way we encourage people. And then we need to have term limits for our lawmakers, so that we can have a revolving door, and encourage more people to go in there and work harder. Let's go to the next.
Yeah, Mr. Doe, before you go any further, I think I agree with you on that. I think we need with the term the years in each term so long. I think a term limit, one term limit, I think 9 years in the Senate is enough. A term limit should be something that we all should look at collectively, that we can work towards. Go towards the next sentence. The next question is from from Ms. Musu Wangalo Stewart. She is saying, so the law set in stone to the detriment of the economy or the people. Mr. Doe, what do you think?
Well, the law is not set in stone and to the detriment of the people. The law is there for it to work for the people. But what is happening here is that our government is not using the law to work for the people. They violate the law. They do not even go by the law. And this is what is hurting our economy, you know. So the next comment is from Fanny Siebold. This Mr. Gilman man is a liar. Mr. Gilman, are you a liar? There's a statement here. Fanny Siebold saying you're a liar. Are you?
Well, Fanny, thank you very much for your comment. What I like about people like you is that usually in a debate, I come from a culture of debate. When somebody debating and you say the numbers are wrong, then you put the right number up. That's how you do it. 1 + 1 is not 2. Then you put out the numbers. But you didn't say where we went wrong or why was I telling that it's not the truth. You say I'm lying. Lying for what? You didn't put the truth. You didn't put it. So we can juxtapose the comments. If someone said this is black and this is white, and you know it's white, then you juxtapose the two and see which one is right. So Fanny, you are off point. Marvin DeShield, go ahead. Answer Marvin DeShield.
Oh, then remove Melvin. DC. Tell him, Mr. Gilman. I know what Melvin Goldquarter is saying. Tell him, Mr. Gilman. I know what.
Yeah, what? Let's go.
See it? Put up the next comment. A question. See, are you there?
What we want to do is, there are too many comments. Let's scroll through them real quick, and then we take notes and then answer them. If we go one by one, we'll stay here all day. So, Mr. Doe, go ahead real quick. Let's go and close.
Okay. Dillon have drafted a bill and presented it to the Senate. You were arguing, Mr. Gilman.
No. We want to go through all the comments first.
No. They have it on the screen. Mr. C has it on the screen.
Yeah, but what he's saying, we should read it because there are too many of them. We'll spend all day.
Melvin DeShield said Dillon have drafted a bill and presented it to the Senate.
Well,
the executive don't have the power to reduce laws and make a salary, sir.
That's correct. We just discussed that. Let's go to the next one.
Boyman said people told him that was the original statement from him. He had no clear evidence.
That's correct.
Musu Wangolo Stewart, maybe just allow the economy to grind to a halt since there seems to be no interest in finding results. Very sad.
Okay. Go to the next one.
Musu Wangolo again. Okay, Nathan Xavier Waller says, from Boyman's statement, I don't see the president guilty of his accusation against the president of this country. Melvin Cordell, did he show you any text messages from his wife and the president? Guess we're referring to me. Fanny Siebel, Boyman J.V. Boyman was coerced to apologize. Nathan, Mr. Doe, you said you are an advocate, but I question that because of the way you sound. Yes, I am an advocate. I may not be advocating for the president, but I am. Fanny Siebel, Boyman J.V. Boyman told us that he makes more money than his wife. We have listened to all the shows. Nathan again, hope you understand what Mr. Gilman is quoting from Boyman J.V. Boyman. For me, he used the name of God to leave him to God to judge Boyman J.V. Boyman, and I side with Mr. Gilman on this one. Emmanuel Zaza, Boyman's accusation was true, but his apology is fake. Liberians are something else. They know everything about everybody. Fanny Siebel, Boyman J.V. Boyman apology is fake. Nathan, Mr. Doe, the Bible says, and I quote, do not use the name of the God in vain. Then you sit there and speak like the foolish ones I gave up on you. Sekou Kamara, Boyman said on the Costa show that he had evidence in his phone that the president had a relationship with his wife. Dennis S.K. Kaki, I don't believe that Mr. Doe Boyman is just a stupid fool who is going to soon be a madman. Fanny Siebel, Burma J.V. Burma is lying on himself by apologizing to the president. Melvin Carter, where is your proof, sir, of Burma being paid? River says, Pro, stand your ground of lying. River says, Pro, Ever is an interesting guy. Really? Dennis S.K. Kake, the tax on goods from the port is too much to the extent that Liberians are preferring other countries' port. Those countries get the money Liberia is supposed to get. A fast nickel is better than a slow down. You are right, Dennis. I totally agree with you. J. Joshua, great conversation, gentlemen. Sekou, since 1979, Liberian in America have been supporting violence in our country. That is an old tactic. Ghana abhor are building their country. Melvin Cordell, thank you, Mr. Gilman. Everything we use in Liberia are being imported. George Leopold, L.O., Mr. Gilman is one very interesting character. Sekou, Costa is a coward. Leaders don't run away from their people. Farata Putuwe, you are living in a great country your family are enjoying, but you don't care for others. How they been murdered, killed, assassinated, slaughtered, living in poverty and slavery. But all you do on social media to preach good about this government is very weak of your shame on you, demon. She's speaking to you. I think she's talking to you. George Fuller, where FOL got this gaming guy from? Yeah, where they got you from? I want to know myself. Sarah put away. Senior is protecting a crime. Where were you when CDC protested for 12 years? I think that's what she meant. Fanny Siebel, CDC protested for 12 years and they're afraid of protests. They're speaking to you. Are they afraid of protests?
No, not by sight. In fact, we encourage protests.
All right.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we had a quite conglomeration or potpourri of comments, and we appreciate you coming on and expressing your view. This is what Liberia is all about. This is what we need to do to discuss these issues that affect us, affects our family, and affect our country. Hopefully, some of these days you will be caught, or you will be in government, and you will be sitting in the hot seat. It is easier to protest and criticize, but very difficult when it comes to leadership, especially in a country where you have to scavenger. You got to be a scavenger when it comes to collecting. We don't generate enough taxes on the ground. Those of you, including myself, we all have homes in Liberia. I can't tell whether you or I are paying property taxes. I know I have purchased so many properties in Liberia that I own, and I want to go on record here. I hope I'm not incriminating myself, but I have not received any bill or anything in Liberia that tells me that, Mr. Gaiman, all of your properties that you have in Liberia, taxes are due. I was told that I have to volunteer to self-report, go to the ministry and say, I have a house in Tingle Village, and it's 20,000 square foot, it's on a 1 acre, and then they will come out and do an estimate and tell me. So for us to reduce poverty, those of us who own property, those of us who are going to own property, those of us who own cars, every car that is plowed on the streets of these United States, we pay taxes every year when you renew your registration. It's a continual process. You cannot own property or car in Liberia without paying taxes. If that is the case, you are actually contributing to the poverty of our people. We shouldn't just accuse the government that the government is not doing enough.
We got to close now.
Yes, that's my closing statement. So you go ahead and close.
Since we have out of time, I'm just going to make one comment. I say to Liberians, Liberia should be built on what is right, not who is right. That principle, that's a solid principle. If all Liberians can live on that principle, that Liberia should be built on what is right, but not who is right, then we have a great country, a beautiful country, and a great country. I end there.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home.